We're going to have Edgar on Amulet Titan playing against Tom, who is on Affinity.
Yeah, and one other thing worth to note about this Amulet Titan deck is it actually has 2 Batter Skulls in the deck also, which are something that's a little atypical from the old Amulet decks that we've seen in the past. So that'll give him a good way to stabilize his life total as well as grind out an opponent who has a lot of disruption.
So Edgar Magalhaes is going to lead off on a Gemstone Mine and the Amulet of Vigor. I have to imagine Tom looked at him and said, you know they banned Summer Bloom, right?
Yeah.
He's just going to play a Blinkmoth Nexus and a Springleaf Drum on his turn. So let's see what Edgar can cobble together.
And Amulet Vigor is a pretty innocuous card, but when you start pairing it with cards like Gruul Turf and the other Karoo lands is what?
Yep.
Yeah. It can generate a lot of mana.
All right, so he's going to generate 3 mana there. Allow him to play a Sousa, and now he can play 2 more lands this turn. So there's 1 land.
And it's nice playing the Karoo lands with Gemstone Mine because you get to return it to your hand and refresh the number of counters.
So he was able to play a Gemstone Mine and then a Teleria West, untapping it, tap for mana, play another Amulet of Vigor. So this speed test is going pretty well. If Edgar has a Primeval Titan or a way to find a Titan next turn, because he has 2 copies of Amulet of Vigor with Slayer Stronghold and Sunhome, he can actually deal 20 points of damage.
Yeah, this is pretty unreal. And normally the Affinity deck is the one that essentially dumps its hand onto the board. But Tom had kind of a weak start. He only played a turn 1 Springleaf Drum, and it looks like he can potentially answer this Isuza with something like a Galvanic Blast, but he's certainly behind in terms of who's having the faster start.
Yeah, unfortunately, Isuza is just not going to be needed here at this point. He still has the Golgari,
the damage is done.
The Golgari Rot Farm in his hand, so that's going to generate 4 mana. And if he has that, it looks like he might have a Summoner's Pact in his hand. No, it's a Slaughter Pact. Okay.
He does have one of those. So this Amulet Titan deck, it's very, very good. The old version was very, very good and very powerful, but sometimes you would run into situations where you just have lands. That said, this is one of the nice tricks that the deck can pull to essentially increase its redundancy.
Yep, so he was able to, killing the Isuza made it so that he didn't die this turn, since he wouldn't have been able to generate a bunch of mana and then transmute the Teleria West. However, he is able to make some mana with the Golgari Rot Farm, make some mana with the Teleria West, bounce it back to his hand, generate another blue mana from the Gemstone Mine, and then transmute the Teleria West for Summoner's Pact. This is what will give him access to a Primeval Titan next turn, and it looks like he has a Simic Growth Chamber in his hand, so that's going to allow him to cast the Titan. At this point, Tom is just going to try and deal as much damage as he can, and then try to not die next turn, and go from there.
So when he plays his next Karoo land, he's going to be able to get 4 mana out of it. So I believe he won't be able to play the, I don't think he'll be able to play Titan next turn because he's going to have to pay for the Pact first.
He hasn't packed yet.
Oh, he hasn't packed yet, of course.
Yeah, he'll
I'm getting ahead of myself.
He'll pact for the Titan next turn.
Yeah, on his turn.
So depending on how familiar Tom is with Amulet, will depend on if he leaves back 1 toughness to not take a full 20. So it looks like we're going to play a Signal Pest using Memnite and Springleaf Drum for Tom.
This Amulet Titan deck, it's certainly looking good this game. It's against Affinity, one of the fastest decks in the format, and it's looking like Edgar might be able to race him down. And Tom is probably a little unsure as to what he's up against, but just says, well, I might as well just attack with everything that I can and, see what happens when the dust settles.
It looks like he's 1 artifact short of just dealing 10 Infect.
Yeah, pretty unreal. Although Edgar does have the
Slaughter Pact.
Yeah, the Singleton Slaughter Pact in his 75. He has it in his hand right now.
What's likely to happen here is that Tom is just going to make an attack and leave back one blocker, and then Edgar is going to be able to Titan, attack you for 20, kill your blocker, deal a straight up 20.
And have a lot of packed mana that he's going to need to pay on the following turn, but he'll have already won by then.
And so Edgar's going to take 1 point of damage and 1 poison, and Tom has left back the Signal Pest, and here we're going to have some fireworks. So Edgar will draw for the turn, submit Growth Chamber, make 2 mana, untap. He's going to return the Gemstone Mine back to his hand.
So I believe he's got 5 mana floating right now.
He's going to pact. He currently only has 2 mana floating.
2 mana. Okay, yeah, he didn't tap it again.
So there's 6 for Primeval Titan.
No big deal.
So this is going to go get Slayer, Stronghold, and Boros Garrison.
Yep.
Which will untap twice. So he'll get 2 activations of Slayer Stronghold, which will make the Titan a 10/6 haste. And then he'll have to bounce the Slayer Stronghold back to his hand from the Boros Garrison. And then when he attacks with the Titan, he will be able to get a Vesuva, which will copy Boros Garrison, and a Sunhome.
Double strike.
Which, because the Vesuva has copied Boros Garrison, he'll be able to generate enough mana from the Vesuva Garrison to activate Sunhome and have it be, 10 power double strike.
It's almost like you've done this before.
Oh, plenty of times.
Yeah, I remember this was your favorite deck before it got banned. Although I should say it didn't get banned, it just got nerfed.
All right, so there's Vesuva and Sunhome. He's going to copy the Boros Garrison. They will untap. He's going to generate some mana.
Yeah, pretty
untap,
unreal.
Generate mana, give it double strike. Return the Sunhome to his hand. So it is now a 10/4 double strike trample creature.
And I've got the pact.
And the Slaughter Pact will get rid of the Signal Pest and deal the full 20 points of damage to Tom.
That is some good magic. Ooh, mama.
Are you happy that we could interact?
Oh,
my dear Affinity opponent.
This is a lot like the red-green Through the Breach Titan deck that we saw, where it's essentially a combo deck that's about as fast as all of the other fast aggressive decks, but it has a few really potent pieces of interaction that has come up perfectly.
All right, well, Tom is going to double-check the Oracle text on Slaughter Pact, and it indeed does just say non-black creature. So Edgar Magalhae is going to take this first game with his Amulet Titan deck against Tom Klenotic.
Making the deck look good.
He definitely is. In fact, had Tom not had the Galvanic Blast for that Azusa, he was going to be able to do a lot of stuff on that one turn.
Even more.
That would have involved making mana, bouncing back the Teleria West that he had, transmuting for a Titan, and so on and so forth. Let's look at their sideboards. Affinity has 1 Tormod's Crypt, 3 Spell Pierce, a Dismember, a Thoughtseize, 1 Gutshot, 2 Ancient Grudge, 1 Whip Flare, 2 Gear per either grid, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Spellskite, 1 Etch Champion. What do you think he's going to sideboard?
So the cards that I like are, you can make a small argument for Spell Pierce on the play. It's not going to be particularly great, but certainly has some usefulness. Thoughtseize is another thing that's going to be quite good. Tagging a Primeval Titan. Ancient Grudge is something that he can bring in to take down the Amulet of Vigors. And I think that's probably going to be about it.
I'll be interested to see if he brings it in, means he's played this matchup before when Summerbloom was banned, but Spellskite can actually stop the Slayer Stronghold activations, which drastically slows down the actual kill speed of the deck. So Spellskite is something that Tom should bring in if it isn't already on his radar.
Great call.
Now on Edgar's side, we have 2 Swansong, 2 Dismember, 2 Fire Spout, a Ghost Quarter, a Malera Silvok Outcast, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Obstinate Baloth, 1 Thragtusk, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Engineered Explosives, a Spellskite, and a Pact of Negation. What do you think Edgar's going to bring in?
So I'm not sure how much interaction he wants, but the Dismembers, the Fire Spouts, the Reclamation Sage is a great one. as well as Hornet Queen and Engineered Explosives. He can also bring in Obstinate Baloth and Thragtusk as just big, meaty bodies that can potentially block and gain him some life, but a lot of the affinity damage comes in the air, so I'm not 100% sure how great those will end up being. That said, he also doesn't want to bring in too much because his Game 1 plan is pretty good, and so there's basically two ways he can go about it. He can continue being an Amulet Titan deck, or he can board into a more mid-rangey, big creatures removal style deck, which I don't think is quite as good.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how exactly he sideboards for this match. I know before you could cut basically like all the Hive Mind portion of the deck because of like Mox Opal and Springleaf Drum. You're not really going to get them.
Yeah.
And things like Hornet Queen and such are very, very good against Affinity. But with this particular build, you don't have a lot of chaff that you can cut because you have to work real hard to make Amulet broken now that you don't just have Summer Bloom to do it.
Yeah, and I like Hornet Queen a lot more than I like Thragtusk and Obstinate Baloth because, again, a lot of the damage from Affinity ends up coming in the air.
All right, well, let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about Grand Prix Louisville that's coming up fairly soon, hosted by StarCityGames.com. It's Legacy, January 6th through the 8th. On social media, hashtag GP Louisville, StarCityGames.com/GP Louisville. For the Legacy main event, you can get this awesome art.
Yeah, really pretty.
It's the Lotus Petal art from the Kaladesh Invention, and you get a Progenitus promo. Register by December 9th to receive this Lotus Petal playmat. You can also sign up for your Infinite Challenge. 3-day, $100. You get a playmat and the promo, and you get to play in all of the challenges.
Infinite.
The prize walls at these events that you're going to be getting tickets for from the challenges is just fantastic. If you're not interested in Legacy, the Infinite Challenge is perfect. Also, Ultimate Commander, $40. You get one of the Commander versus playmats. You get one of those awesome Ultimate Guard Commander Flip and Tray Xenoskin deck case 100+, and you get 4 of the Commander 4-player event vouchers, which is great value. Special guest Rob Alexander. You might know him. He did an art for a little card called Underground Sea.
Ever heard of it?
Sees a little bit of play. And Christine Sprankle is going to be dressing up and showing off her cosplay pedigree there at the GP Louisville. So make sure you check us out for Legacy, January 6th through the 8th. StarCityGames.com/GP Louisville for the Grand Prix information page.
I'd love going to an event where they have the playmat artwork goes with the event that's being played.
Yeah,
they're so great having a Legacy playmat with the Lotus Petal artwork.
Like the New Jersey Legacy Grand Prix where we had Brainstorm
that was
a couple
so
years
good.
back. That was just, oh man. Actually, it should have just been Treasure Cruise, but Brainstorm is fine.
Every once in a while, I'll see someone pull out their Brainstorm sleeves. Like they've been saving it for some future Legacy tournament. Like I saw some people bust it out for Eternal Weekend that was held here, a couple weeks ago, and that sort of stuff is always really fun.
All right, so it looks like Edgar is on a mulligan, I believe to 6. Let's see if he can find a good hand. This deck does mulligan pretty frequently, I would say.
Yeah.
But I know with the old version, just the possibility of a turn 2 Titan is just so tough to pass up trying to find those cards.
Yeah, I remember when I was playtesting it, I had to mulligan a lot more than I was comfortable with, but I was able to do a lot more with less cards than I thought I would. Or when I had mulliganed, I was able to do a lot more than I thought I would be able to.
Yeah.
So it has to mulligan a lot, but it mulligans pretty well.
Well, Tom is going to lead off with a Darksteel Citadel and a Springleaf Drum. Edgar just has a Tularia West tapped. Here we have a Blinkmoth Nexus for Tom, and let's see if he has a 2-drop.
And both of these starts from...
He does, and it's the Spells Guide.
Oh, I brought it in from the sideboard, so maybe he's played this before. Not his first time in the rodeo.
And a Mox Opal, so this Titan deck has the capability to put a lot of permanents on the battlefield, but Tom just put 7 permanents down on turn 2.
Yeah, and notably, the Spellskite, it doesn't have Defender, so it can equip that Cranial Plating and start bashing Edgar's face. So this is definitely a better start from Tom than we saw in Game 1.
Let's see what Edgar can cobble together. He has an Amulet of Vigor.
He's got the Amulet again, jeez.
Just going to play a Growth Chamber and return his Tularia West back to his hand. Pass the turn.
So nothing broken yet.
Sorry, it looks like Tom only has 6 permanents, not 7. I misspoke. See how Tom wants to navigate this turn. I have to figure out how can I get maximum damage and utilize his hand, because he just has Springleaf Drum, another Opal, and a Galvanic Blast.
And it can be a little tricky with these Affinity decks to figure out how you can get the most possible damage. Because it is pretty mana tight. The first 3 turns of the game matter a lot, and you want to make sure that you're doing things basically perfectly.
So it looks like he's going to equip the Cranial Plating to the Inkmoth Nexus. Play another Opal. Play another Springleaf Drum, a Blinkmoth Nexus, and then attack with the Blinkmoth Nexus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 damage.
And what's nice about this is Tom still has the potential to make red mana to cast that 1 Galvanic Blast that's in his hand. So even if a Souza should appear, he'll be able to kill it, hopefully before it does too much damage.
Yeah, thankfully, with these lands all having to enter the battlefield triggers, the Souza is quite vulnerable when your opponent gains priority.
Yeah.
A lot going on in these first, 1, 2, 3 turns in Modern.
Yeah, it almost seems like these games are going to be decided by turn 3. The game's probably going to go longer than that, but whoever's going to win or lose.
All right, well, there's an Asusa. He's going to play Gemstone Mine, does not have a trigger. This does have a trigger.
All right, now Edgar's starting to do things.
Now he's going to transmute.
And if he gets a Titan, or a Summoner's Pact to potentially get a Titan, he's only 1 mana short, so we could see a Titan on the following turn. And with that Amulet, we would be able to see a Titan with haste and +2/+0.
Well, the Spellskite can steal the Slayer Stronghold activation, so that'll stop it. So best case scenario for Edgar here is he already has a Titan, and he can transmute for a Slaughter Pact to kill the Spellskite, and then try and get something going with his Primeval Titan.
It's like you've done this before.
A couple times. Affinity can be rough on the draw, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, he is just going to get Engineered Explosives, though. Okay.
So Engineered Explosives for 2 is really good here because you get the Cranial Plating and you get the Spellskite.
So Galvanic Blast is just going to hit him for 4, and that's going to be lethal.
Ooh.
Up top.
Tom sees the lion. Don't need to kill your stuff, I can just kill you.
All right. That's going to take Edgar down to 8. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but 8 + 8 + 4 is a full-on 20. There's a signal.
Let's make it 9.
Activate.
Pretty well done by Tom.
Equip.
Knowing to bring in the Spellskite.
Attack.
Knowing how to use that Galvanic Blast.
All right. Tom Klenotic is going to take game 2 here on the back of a few Cranial Plating attacks, a decent opening draw, and being on the play, which seems to be a trend in Modern as a format. Taking a look at the sideboards here, do we think might be any changes? We didn't really see much from Edgar outside of that Engineered Explosives, which is pretty standard. I am happy to see that Tom brought in that Spellskite, though.
Yeah, I think that from Tom, the Spell Pierces were justifiable on the play. I do not like them at all on the draw. I think that's a pretty borderline thing to bring in. So if he had them, I think he'll take them out. Otherwise, I wouldn't suspect anything else to change.
All right, so while these players are finishing up sideboarding for game 3 here in round 8, let's learn a little bit more about the new SCG Tour schedule for Season 1 of next year. So we're going to kick it off the Atlanta Invitational weekend, December 2nd through the 4th. Invitational, Standard, and Modern. There's also going to be a Standard Open that weekend that you'll be able to play in, and a bunch of Classics. Then we're in Columbus, January 21st to 22nd for Standard. Then we're in Richmond, 28th to 29th of January for Standard. And then we have the Regional Championships on February 4th, which will be Modern. After that, February 18th through 19th, we have a Team Open in Baltimore.
That's going to be so
Standard,
sick.
Modern, Legacy. Everybody
So
has
cool.
to have one of each.
So pumped they're doing that.
February 25th and 26th is going to be Modern in Indianapolis. March 11th through 12th will be Modern in Dallas. April 8th through 9th, we're going to be in Worcester, Massachusetts, playing some Legacy.
Oh, yeah. And now we're going to be getting into the part where we get the Atlanta Open weekend on April 29th and 30th for Standard. Louisville will be there for May 20th and 21st for another Standard Open. And then we're going to be playing Modern in Baltimore on May 27th and 28th. So if you like what you're seeing here, there's going to be another chance to get into it. And then Charlotte, June 10th and 11th, Modern. And then we'll be wrapping it all up with the Season 1 Invitational of 2017 in Roanoke, Virginia. Wow, that'll be sweet. Another Modern and Standard one on June 30th through July 2nd.
With the new payout, that is a 100K Invitational, by the way. Lots of money to win.
Jeez.
And as always, we have playmats that you can get based off of the different formats for the events that you play in. Smuggler's Copter is what you'll get in all of the standard
All-Star,
Standard Opens and Classics for all of Season 1 next year. And the Modern Open and Classics, it's going to be the Kaladesh Masterpiece version of Aethervial, which is pretty
very
sweet.
cool. And
then for the Legacy Opens and Classics, you get the Eternal Masters art for Gamble. No gamble, no future.
I love how she has a crowbar.
Yeah, that's how she got the gem out. You
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's the gamble. So Standard, Modern, Legacy, Smuggler's Copter, Aethervial Expedition, or Masterpiece, and then Gamble. So make sure you check that out next year, Season 1 of the SCG Tour schedule. Jam-packed full of lots of awesome tournaments, a lot of points, a lot of money, great playmats.
Yeah, pretty excited, especially the playmats. Like Smuggler's Copter is a really good card in Standard right now, and being able to have a Smuggler's Copter playmat and a Smuggler's Copter deck, you know, that's just good deck building, basically.
Yeah, read that Tribe Scout. Edgar's going to start off here. Gemstone Mine, Sakura Tribe Scout. What does that do? Do I have to use a removal spell on it? We're going to find out.
It's a pretty good play on turn 1 for this Amulet Titan deck. It's really going to allow him to ramp up.
Snake Shaman Scout, one of those creatures that have 3 types.
Classic tribe.
Yeah, Elf Druid Ally is another one that I like. So Tom has, looks like an Inkmoth Nexus and a Springleaf Drum. Let's see, what does Edgar have? Oh, there's an Amulet. He can play 2 lands this turn. Get a tap for some mana. Going to use a green for an Ancient Stirrings. He has a red mana floating.
And he can still play another land. This is going to be an explosive turn. And normally we think of Affinity as being the most explosive deck in the format on turn 1 and 2, but in both of these games, it seems like Edgar's kind of outclassing him.
All right, so it looks like the option is going to be a Radiant Fountain, just a way to kind of pad your life total. With the Karoo, you can just keep bouncing it back to your hand. You're going to tap the Tribe Scout. That's not an attack. Serum Visions.
Wow, he's doing all the stuff. Gets an
card.
extra land drop. Casts 3 cards this turn. Not too bad.
All right, both of those on the bottom. Just going to pass the turn, losing his mana. I think that we might see a creature from Tom and then a Galvanic Blast taking care of that Sakura Tribe Scout.
Yeah, I would very much be interested in taking that little guy out.
And we have a basic island. Going to tap 2 for a Steel Overseer. Looks like he also has a Mox Opal. Man, that card is good. He's going to make a mana.
And Tom really wants to find a way to not only disrupt Edgar by killing his Sakura Tribe Scout, but also maximizing his offense, because Tom needs to end this game.
All right, so he's just going to pay 2 and cast a Vault Scourge, and then use the Mox Opal to get rid of the Sakura Tribe Scout with a Galvanic Blast. Not quite sure what Edgar has in hand, but let's see what he can cobble together.
Yeah, he's not in a great position, but definitely not in a bad position now. Tom has managed to mount a little bit of an offense, and Edgar is going to need another turn, I believe, to land a Titan.
Tom has had Galvanic Blast in all the right spots this match.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It definitely has been a very good card for him.
Yeah, you know, it's funny with the Affinity deck. I see that, like, that's a flex slot that I see changing quite a bit, but I really like Galvanic Blast for the Affinity decks. It just seems like the most solid plan A kind of card.
All right, well, looks like Edgar is just going to play his Radiant Fountain and gain 2 life, go up to 22. Looks like he's going to pay 4 and dismember the Steel Overseer.
And I like using the Dismember there because that Steel Overseer represents a lot more than just 1 power and toughness.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. Now, if Edgar has a Karoo next turn, he can play a Titan.
Yeah.
And attack with it.
Pretty nice.
And maybe I should build this deck. These cards are just still all messed up.
Yeah, this deck does look really good. It looks a lot like the old one. The old one was completely broken, and they nerfed it.
No, it wasn't.
So
it was fair.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, 1 Infect, 1 damage, going to knock Edgar down to 17. Tom will go up to 19. Got a Signal Pest and another Signal Pest. Let's see if it's prime time.
And, you know, a lot of times you say, well, the Primeval Titan deck, they only have 4 copies of Primeval Titan. But
oh, he drew a Summoner's Pact.
But between Summoner's Pact and even ways to find Summoner's Pact,
that is a Titan by proxy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave my deck here for a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to be searching it again.
Yeah,
soon.
we're going to search it a couple times.
Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that Edgar can kill Tom this turn, but he's going to be able to do a heck of a lot of damage and get a bunch of stuff onto the board.
Yeah, he can do 8 points of damage and set up his mana for next turn. If Tom doesn't find a way to answer the Titan, then he'll be able to kill him the following turn, unless he forgets to pay for his Pact. I actually made like these color-coded things that I would use to put on top of my deck.
Oh yeah,
to remind me which packs that I needed to pay for.
That's a cool idea. Another thing that he might do is he may, you know, get the Boros Garrison and the Slayer Stronghold, attack, and then get another Karoo land and another
Teleria West?
Yeah, Teleria West, so that he can find another Summoner's Pact and find another Titan if this one ends up getting answered.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to get a Ghost Quarter so that he can stop that Nexus if he needs to. And then another, probably a Simic Growth Chamber, and return the Slayer Stronghold back to his hand.
Yeah, and being able to have an answer for the Inkmoth Nexus is definitely one of the ways that Tom or Edgar can protect himself from getting punked out of this game, because things are looking pretty good for him.
Looks like he's going to get Vesuva and Temple of Mystery. And Vesuva is going to copy Inkmoth Nexus, which will give him a blocker. I've done that a couple times. That's pretty neat. And he'll get to scry off of the Temple of Mystery.
So giving, well, taking on a much more defensive posture.
So we have an attack for 8. Looks like Tom is just going to take the 8, fall down to 11. Edgar's put a dice on top of his deck to remind him to pay for his Pact. Let's see what Tom can put together.
You know, the flavor text of Vesuva, it's everywhere you've ever been. Really sounds like some sort of line from like a credit card advertisement, doesn't it? Or like a travel agency.
What's in your wallet?
Yeah. It's everywhere you've been.
It's everywhere you want to be. All right, so let's see how Tom decides to navigate this turn. Man, Primeval Titan is big.
Oh yeah. He's a lot like a Stormbreath Dragon. You know, he's big and he's angry.
Yeah, he's real angry. You know, for the longest time I thought that Primeval Titan was just like a dinosaur, but it's actually a giant.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So Tom's trying to figure out how he can not die. And if
That's
there's
never a good place to be.
Yeah, especially as an Affinity deck, because you're not really that good at blocking. He can gain a little bit of life off of his flyer that has lifelink, but it's still going to be pretty tricky.
Yeah, well, this Titan is going to be double striking next turn. Tom is just going to attack with all of his creatures. Let's see if Edgar wants to activate this Inkmoth Nexus.
There's not a whole lot that Edgar can do, but there's also not a whole lot that he needs to do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind just activating the Nexus and forcing Tom to like use his mana here.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an attack for 7 damage and 3 infect. It's not even particularly threatening.
It's only 5 damage.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
5 damage and 3 infect.
5 damage and 3 infect. Yeah, I don't even know if I would throw away a land here.
Well, he doesn't need it to kill his opponent next turn, and this way it causes Tom to use his mana.
Wow. And this game didn't end on turn 3, but it was basically decided on turn 3. So this is going to be a little unfortunate for Tom, but I really feel like he needed a bit more of a fast start. In this game, he played his some of his answers before his threats, and I would have really liked to have seen him try to sequence things in a way where he just had more pressure earlier.
Actually, that was a mistake. Using the lance here. Now he's like just double strike on the Titan doesn't kill Tom.
Right.
Oh, he can play a land for his turn. Okay. I totally spaced it. He could just like play a land for his turn, and
That's
he had lands. Because he needs to be able to use the Slayer Stronghold before he gives it double strike. And Vesuva to copy the. Oh, he already used the Vesuva.
And that's game. 16 damage, double strike and trample.
Yep. And Edgar.
So this
Magalhae is going to take this.
The third deck we've seen that needs to be banned, I think, today.
I mean, there's a lot in Modern.